Welcome to Public Access Poetry. Tonight, Jim Brodey and Simon Shucat are going to read some either recently published or brand new poetry, and also give us a glimpse into their personal conditions. Both are employees of the St. Mark's Church Poetry Project, which for years has been feeding poetry to the people. Jim teaches a Tuesday night workshop where he emphasizes the oral poetic tradition, singing, chanting, speech therapy, etc. Simon Shucat is owner-operator of the 432 Review, a literary magazine, and recently published a special Jim Brodey issue. Other than being residents of the same building on the Lower East Side, they have no further intimate relationships we know of. Simon Shucat's first book of poems, Svelte, published in his late teenage years, was put out by Richard Meyer's Genesis Grasp Press, the same Richard who is now Richard Hell of the Voidoids. A second collection of Simon's poems, called Blue Skies, was published by Michael Lally in 1973, and in September a major new work entitled Now, More Than Ever will be forthcoming from Vehicle Books. Simon is also an actor and has been in both the New York and traveling casts of the underground review Bicentennial Suicide by Bob Howman and Bob Rosenthal. It is well known that Simon's Elvis Presley imitation is without peer. Jim Brodey has been stalking the literary establishment since the late, great 60s, when he was actively involved in the formation of the East Village Other. For a time was music editor of both the LA Free Press and Crawdaddy, where he conducted extensive interviews with Duane Allman, Jesse Winchester, and Al Cooper. It is clearly understood by everybody here and in our studio audience that the character Max in the new movie Between the Lines, which is played by Jeff Goldblum, was modeled after Brodey. His poems have appeared everywhere, from the early Fuck You, a magazine of the arts, to the Paris Review, Rolling Stone, and his work was included in the groundbreaking anthology of New York poets, edited by Ron Padgett and David Shapiro in 1970, and published by Random House. Last year, Bill Berkson's Big Sky Books published a book of rhythmic prophecy by Brodey titled Blues of the Egyptian Kings. Lately, he's been busy giving readings, blanketing the Florida, Washington, D.C., New Jersey axis with his performances. Did I leave anything out?
Well, just that I have a new book coming out before the summer called Unless, which is being brought out from Washington, D.C. by Titanic Books. And, well, I have the title poem here, which I'll read. This is called Unless. Unless I stay here writing all night, I'll probably go down to Woodstock and have a few beers, which will get me sick. And I'll come back up here to the mountain in the fucking weird-ass dark and barf all over the porch again. Last time I was sure it was a rainbow I was barfing. All kinds of beautifully undefinable colors, unknown lovely hues, tiny bits of brown rice stubble, hunks of toasted barley, and globs of veggie. Of course, in the morning that other time, others slid in my mouth's droppings in the bright rainbow flood pool and got really mad. So, probably, I won't get drunk tonight. Unless I stay here writing all night, I'll probably go see Paul and see if he has any new grass to smoke. But smoking it, I'd do too much, envision vast ant battles in the garden, and ultimately say something quite strange, or otherwise offend someone and get booted out of there pronto. Paul is always getting loaded earlier in the day and would be passed out anyhow. But his wife has certain unknown rules, and the guys around there can never seem to understand exactly the way I mean things. So unless I'm real B-O-R-E-D, I should probably stay here and write. But unless I'm inspired, I just can't sit and write all night, and now I'm real stoked up to leave and go someplace. Any place would do. Same problem as in Bolinas, although there everybody except the drunks go to Betty Bye very early, and there are the same number of nuts who have smoking fits and crazy old ladies and invisible rules and strange regulations and nutty scenes. But somehow I always liked it better there. Probably sometime in the future, someone from there will read this poem and get pissed off. Whose old lady did I mean when I wrote that stuff? Hello, Bolinas? Don't get uptight. I don't know. Maybe I should get drunk. Nah, just kick back and cool it. But I'm so hyped up manic tonight. Must be a full moon. I don't know. I ain't been outside yet. So now I've been outside, and you know, no full moon. Just bugs. Lots and lots of bugs. Buzzing, making trouble for the other bugs to get close to the yellow cabin bug light. I always thought that yellow cabin bug lights were supposed to keep those fuckers in line and away, out of sight, gone. But apparently not. Oh well. Unless I have a few more concrete ideas, I should really stop writing altogether. But, you know, I can't. And when I realize how terrible and hard it is for those guys in Russia, suffering in inky, dark, snowbound concentration camps, to just get a few scribbled somethings on a torn pad page, and probably they are hungry and wet, shivering in Siberia's freezing cold, teeth chattering a mile a minute, no real clothes on to speak of, but the flame of poetry keeping them warm from their brains on down to their frost-bitten toesies. And here I am, not suffering, just bored to tears. No woman, nothing to say, a few good books to read within reach, my record collection to aspire to, postcards from people I know and who know me and whom I love and who all care tacked on the wall above the writing table. A little flickering candle there, too. The machine humming in this great, vast darkness of my life. A faint smile on my puss and an idiotic flair for images reeling through my mind which absolutely, really, nobody cares about anyhow. And I'm sort of happy on top of all this, though alone. More alone than I've ever been, but not exactly crying about it, and writing, which cleaves through the aforementioned darkness. The summery breezes sway through the trees that bunk in their turn into this cabin's wooden secure walls. In the internal darkness that is sifted over the little valley below, through that eternal darkness that soothes this huge hill, Mead Mountain, old Mead Mountain, like a spiritual well of dirt and rock and plant and tree and shrub and watery stream, hillock, petal bud, and two, over love's lack and lost love's remembered light that has passed through my eyes and beheld, ah, such gone delight there. Unless the light returns and life leaps full again to those peepers, I'll sit here writing till. And I begin to think of love's steady hands upon my bod, and I think of love, and I remember. And I think of a life that cannot live without love's embrace. And I think of a life I cannot lead with love, and I know. This is the issue of Simon's Magazine 432, which is the Jim Brodey issue. This incredibly great, magnificent cover is the sole creation of Rochelle Kraut. Now the magazine is broken up into several sections. Among other things, there's a collaboration that I did with Frank O'Hara about 10 years ago. There's a very long section. In fact, most of the magazine is given over to a long interview which Simon and I conducted. And I'm going to read one part from this interview. This particular part has to do with going to the original rock and roll shows which Alan Freed conducted at the now torn down Brooklyn Paramount Theater. I'll begin from the middle of the section. The joint was jumping. All manner of wild person and insanely dressed hipsters from the Bronx would be hanging around the candy stand. In the balcony, the real show was the people. There were Mexicans, Spanish people in loud, colorful shirts with big, lopping fur hats, beautiful dark women in long skirts with flashing brown, tender, sexy eyes, nutty, leather-jacketed Marlon Brando types swaggering around with greasy hair and ducktails and sideburns, with combs sticking out of the back of the pockets of their dungarees. Ordinary kids who just come for the music course, they didn't seem to notice the overabundance of crazies. There were older people, still in their 40s, type Sunday suits, who flashed nervous sideward glances at the tough guys and tried not to be too obvious in the throng that soared around them. The whole place took on a carnival of soul atmosphere. One part circus, one part madhouse, one part Negro frolic, and several parts impatience. The show would follow a dumb romance or war movie, during which the place was alive with wolf calls, chilling screams, thrown objects that bounced off the screen, frequently making little rips in it. Loud cursing bellows and just your average lionhouse smell about feeding time. The actual show would start with a booming fanfare and off-stage voice announcing, "Here's Alan Freed!" Then the thunder came right down out of the huge sky out there above the theater. It came right down through the roof. It came right down through the throng and the swaying, actually at times moving balcony, right down onto that stage as a little funny-looking guy in a really dumb checkered blazer jacket with flannel trousers, a crew cut and ridiculously overstated grin, rushed out to be swallowed up by that murderous roar. Alan Freed was surely an overrated creep. But he knew how to package a show. He never sang a note. He never had to. He spoke in a sparkling lingo all his own. And, in a way, it was like some poetry, the way he threw his vowels around. He had a style, but what was more important, he had those kids in the palm of his hand. The show began with a rousing tenor saxophone battle between Sam the Man Taylor, Freddie Mitchell, and Big Al Sears. They played hyped-up, bassy tunes very fast. Then the groups began trooping out one by one. Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, the Moonglows, Buddy Holly, Bo Diddley, Chuck Berry, Little Anthony and the Imperials, Ronnie Hawkins, Dale Hawkins, the Ronettes, the Pelicans, the Mellotones, the Flamingos, Dwayne Eddy and the Rebels, and a list your arm long. But the best one, the one I always thought brought the house down the most, was Jackie Wilson, with a voice from some lost, begone operetta, shredded through some tear-jerking, butt-swinging, really heavy music. He commanded that stage. Now I have a theory about how Jackie Wilson particularly built up that fabulous way he had of hypnotizing you with his exceptional stage movements. Anyone who's ever been on a stage with an audience out there roaring, and all you can see out there is the glare of a white-hot spotlight, knows that all you can see clearly is that white-hot spotlight. Wilson, like Frankie Lyman or any of the other really big acts of the day, had to keep moving around that stage because they didn't know from which side the next projectile would come winging down from the balcony and splash onto the stage. They'd kind of watch the glare to see the big soda cans and plastic containers of milkshakes as they spun through that glare, making recognizable shadows against the big bright light. So Jackie would weave nervously around the stage, dipping slowly down on his knees for a sincere moment in the song's lyrics, suddenly be up and across the whole length of the stage to avoid the missiles that would surely be lobbing in to cream him. Of course, someone, sometimes, would have a chance to get a really loud wail of joy when a bucket of some messy soda slop would catch Jackie in mid-stride. But, of course, that was the magic of it all, and the music, of course, was what I was doing there. Frequently, I'd hang around long after the other fellows had gone home. I'd sit in the balcony watching the shows, taking all the gleaming instruments as they caught the colored revolving lights, drinking in all the enormously great music. Or while the movie was in progress, I'd wander around the theater, always sitting in another vacant seat, a different one than I'd previously seen the entire show from. I watched the couples kissing and clenching as a romantic singer crooned in hyped-up tempo a lonely song, and flinched with cold sweats as Buddy Holly lifted my heart, right out of my clothes with his weeping teenage voice that trembled on the brink of some smoky eternity. Hi, Mom. Simon's next.
Right. We don't have a segue worked out though.
No. So?
Well,
I think that
segue with your Elvis Presley invitation.
my invitation to Elvis. No, I'm afraid not. Actually.
This is Simon Shucat. He's the editor of this magazine.
This magazine. Not available in stores.
This magazine. This England.
Yes. Well, anyway. I'm on camera and everything. And the camera's looking deep into my eyes.
Yeah, and you got 13 minutes.
Right, it's all black and white. I know exactly how long it is. Anyway, you can't see the color of my eyes. So, eyes. My eyes have been seen as blue, and then again termed green, even brown or hazel. They're tired, a little red, tearing in the wind. I think they're gray or nondescript. They're nothing compared with yours when I looked in deep, beautiful blank blue. You wear contacts or something?
Let's see, do you check, Jip?
Oh yeah, right on. Looks like Buck Spitz meets Abbott and Costello over here.
Okay, entering New York with a heart on. Oh yes. I breakfasted at Union Square. Behind me, two young Jewesses, in accents low and soft, discuss their totally impotent boyfriends and the political implications thereof. And I weep with sadness for their plight. But, my dear, if you'll put on that baby blue mini dress, a remnant of your high school wiggling, then lift it up, over legs and then shoulders, then completely off and wave it as our bright bandana, I'll salve all those pesky itches with my electric cattle prod. Ha! I'm
These are closet writings.
Closet, this has been
This is
published.
the stuff you hide when people come to your house.
This is published in a magazine called In the Light. As a matter of fact, it's very open. Anyway, I'm slick as an otter, hung like a giraffe, born under the conjunction of the lion and crab. I've got the fastest tongue on the Lower East Side. I've got a valid driver's license, a map of the subway committed to memory. But you can still show me around all those underground tunnels. Or we can go to the country and I'll stay in your spread in the Hamptons. Ladies, ladies, you can be sure I'm ready and ripe. Your right leg is the East River. Your left is the Hudson. So let me recharge your battery. Light up your pink twin towers. In the heat sink of summer, what else can a poor boy do? Good God. This is written according to a formula. It's a canzone. New poems for Steve Hamilton, who he actually wrote the poem. I just wrote it down, or something like that. I took the mean pills that I got with my mad money in a blue mood of Kentucky megalomania to get down to the business levels of everyday communion with the spirit masters, trainers of snakes, singers of corn, where I danced the Morris on the Ohio mounds, and I was marvelous. He was in Hawaii. I didn't care to learn the rest of that majestic tale until I maneuvered myself to the onion to the onion grass of Tennessee, the sawgrass of the Everglades, the pine barrens of Virginia. Tucking a microphone under my sweater, I addressed the masses on the virtues of the Moors, a book all women understand. I tried to reach Malta, wearing a leather halter, crossed the Matterhorn with an unwieldy mattress on my back. I determined to learn German and voyage to Vienna, to make $1 million, to maintain an orangerie attached to a mansion somewhere to the north of Madrid. Conversations in courtship. Why does the earth go around the sun? Wouldn't it be more aesthetic differently? Around you, for instance. Wouldn't the earth not get cold at night or mist rise from the river if you were central? Well, it's true the river is polluted, but it's pretty enough, oil reflecting color, floating. Can it be beautiful and true simultaneously? And who made up the rules? Who give me money? How about a job? And the flies refuse to die. It must get, I wrote this a long time ago, it must get colder and colder and cold till when it rains, it isn't rain but snow. Colder and colder till any tears I might weep freeze on my unshaven chin. So cold I wish it were summer. So cold I dream I'm in Chicago. So cold I am in Chicago, probably dreaming of you. What do you think of that? Nobody has to guess about these matters. The answers are well known, like a grammar. You were lovely, an image from courtly love, riding your mare, slapping her umber flanks. What color is umber? Is the Pope Catholic? Where are the drugs with which I'll cure me, for I am only a ham? Am I myself or a talking tree? Why did the chicken cross the road? What's happening uptown? Did you have a good trip? Would you care for some mint tea? A mint julep? Without invention, nothing lies under the witch hazel bush, but you were not invented. What's your sign? What's your number? What's my number? Why is this night different from all other nights? It was nice to do something straight for a second. It's a prayer I wrote the 1st of March when it was still winter. I bitterly regretted asking for winter in that other poem. I ask you for grace to admit, prayer. I ask you for grace to admit tonight to a station of acceptable flowering. It will be spring as long as you allow, for you are queen of true northern light, of which there is little in our urbane life. Give us the viscous presence, glorious anemones of slender stems and delicate whitish blossoms. Let the air be noisy with children, music to fill the smoke of Con Ed's pipes with new and more joyous pulsings. I propose to you a more glorious bath. Give me the gray rain. I want to observe its evaporation, like the oak door shining from its hinges, or the high dune running through your sieve. Condense the cold water vapor of the clouds. Let a rain wash down the bitter char of our continually damaged air. It is your air, your breathing. Let the sun burn off the haze, while the air remains invigorating without a rip in the rainbow. Let your season commence tonight, 15 days or so ahead of time. I'm going to close with a translation from Arthur Rimbaud. Paris Orgy. Avast, you chicken shits. There she blows. Well, I figure I'll just go till we run out of time, right? 5 minutes? Okay. No, I'll read something else. I have to get two. Yeah, that's right. You got it. You got it. You got it. Yeah.
He's dead. He don't know.
I'll read a different one. Casanova. Here I stand, a man of many letters and some fame, drinking of the caramel-colored Pepsi, breathing of the snow-colored air, smoking the moss-green grass, surveying my future like an open trunk of blossoms, unexhausted in the repetitions of the song. An open field before me, a dismal fog embraces the upright arms of the stone bridge. It spans an atom of belief. I tell you in strict confidence, because I know myself to be a new house, that's what Casanova means, a new house of several rooms and corridors, balconies of the blithe, and attics of the glum. I feel certain my name will outlast the most distinguished court of Albany or Boulder. I am an engineer, skilled in several of the sciences, cards and rhetoric among the least of my domains, author of one or another work of lofty intention and medium beauty, master of braggadocio as well as passion. Give me your hand. It is rather white and sweats a little in its touching clasp of my mighty mitts, thus pleasing the nibble pointers to no end except their and your pleasure, which is as it should be. The horses are ready. On my honor, you can depend on my honorable word. Not that you've any sensible reasons, except that you do. Now I find my heart still despicable, for America is yet to be discovered by them of silent action, not the smug vanities of the imported Buddha face, which is hardly mine, except in someone's, your, eyes, who might be right, but disinfects no doubt that I am only commonly mean. But all I can say is yes.
Hey, let me read one. We got time?
3 minutes?
3 minutes? I'll
3
read
minutes.
this fast one.
Oh, you will you?
It's called Homeward Bound. It's in this book, which can be gotten at the Gotham Book Mart anywhere in
Hi,
any
Mom.
city in the entire universe. As flames are drawn from turbines' roar, the gypsy life reprocesses from wads of bullets and plaster. Where in darkness can I wander from to be homeward returning the poet, impolite among iambics, to play with such a tangled living and breath out there? Oh, as feelings lift the line from the page and throw the words like knives into a passing sideshow, point blank, the black rings of tape measure mark off my despair, audible among the blurs of lassoed sonatas in static air. The shrubs multiply, ranked and freckly sweat, miles of stretched, palpitating flares are lit to amble. I am meadow sweet in the torn and blooded shirt of my fathers, and the orange-peeled sword hilt of my countrymen, who went this way, homeward bound, to blow the dust from my family crest, my cup.
Right. Two?
2 minutes?
Would you like to say something? Like to say something, Karen?
Why don't you read another poem?
Don't have any more.
Make one up.
Yeah, improvise.
Tell some jokes. Well, actually, there's
I got one. It's called Dream. John Ashbery and Jimmy Stewart are sitting on a log in the Amazon, naked as jaybirds, smoking big chunks of hash. And Jimmy is saying how he can't understand how John's poems are selling so good. And why can't I understand them? And John says, whoever said understanding has anything to do with how good they are. And he reads Jimmy his poem, Europe, at the end of which Jimmy cranes back his head and laughs, and says how he can understand them only as long as John is reading them.
Yay, team!
Make all those guys disrobe.
Where's the sherbet?
Where's the Schoenberg?
Are we off the air? Thank God.
You were great and nobody knew.
I told Bert Britton about it, because he has a cable TV set.
When did you open?
That's the fun part. What are they looking at?
They're looking at us, we're looking at
We were
them.
told we were off.
I can't see them.
We're off. No one is watching us.
We're off.
Oh, great.
No one anywhere in America is
Take
watching
this
us.
off.
People are naked, standing in front of their TV.